I went to bed single. I woke up married. And the man standing in my kitchen, humming as he flipped pancakes, was a complete stranger. My name is Hannah, and until that night, my life was painfully normal. I had a decent job at a marketing firm, a tiny apartment on the 14th floor of a building that smelled perpetually of curry, and a cat named Milo who judged me silently from the windowsill. I wasn't dating anyone seriously, hadn't been for almost 2 years, and I definitely wasn't planning on getting married. Marriage was something other people did, people with their lives figured out. Not me. But on a Friday night in October, after drinks with friends at a bar I'd been to a dozen times before, I woke up to something straight out of a horror movie. A wedding ring on my finger. A marriage certificate on my nightstand. And a man in my kitchen, cooking me breakfast, calling me sweetheart. It started like any normal Friday. Work, then happy hour with my coworkers at the Rusty Nail. 3 drinks max, that was my rule. I'm not a lightweight, but I'm not stupid either. 3 drinks kept me buzzed but coherent. 3 drinks meant I could still get myself home safely. Except I couldn't remember finishing my second. I remember Alyssa, my closest friend since college, ordering a round of tequila shots. I remember declining, tequila and I don't mix well. I remember Alyssa insisting, come on, loosen up for once. I remember checking my phone, 10:17 p.m. Then, nothing. A black hole where 8 hours of my life should have been. I sat up in bed, my heart hammering against my ribcage like it was trying to escape. My head pounded with each heartbeat, but this wasn't just a hangover. My gut twisted with a primal warning signal, danger. The ring was heavy, expensive looking. White gold with a diamond that caught the morning light, fracturing it into tiny rainbow prisms across my bedsheets. It fit my finger perfectly. Too perfectly. The marriage certificate had my full name on it, Hannah Elizabeth Morrison. But the signature at the bottom? That looping, confident scrawl wasn't mine. I'd never signed my name that way in my life. My eyes darted to the stranger in my kitchen. He moved with practiced ease, like he'd cooked in my kitchen 100 times before. Opening cabinets without hesitation, knowing exactly where everything was kept. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair styled in that deliberate way that screams money. Expensive watch glinting on his wrist. Designer clothes that looked casual but probably cost more than my monthly rent. Handsome in a way that felt calculated. Like someone had designed him in a lab specifically to appeal to women. He turned, smiling at me like I was the love of his life. His teeth were perfect. Too perfect. Morning, babe. How do you like your eggs? I opened my mouth to scream, to demand who the hell he was and how he got into my apartment. But my throat was like sandpaper. My voice didn't come out, just a dry, painful rasp. And that's when I realized, the worst part wasn't the ring. It was the fact that I had no memory of the past 12 hours. I tried to stand, but my legs were shaky, uncertain. I grabbed a headboard to steady myself and noticed it then, the slight smudge of something on my inner arm. I rubbed at it, and it partially revealed what looked like a needle mark. My stomach dropped to the floor. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped it. The screen was cracked, a spiderweb fracture across the glass that hadn't been there yesterday. It still worked, though. I scrolled frantically through my messages, my photos, my call log. Nothing past 10:23 p.m. last night. A text to Alyssa, heading to the bathroom, watch my drink. That was it. Just a black void where my memories should have been. I looked up at him, finally forcing out a weak, who are you? His face didn't change. That was the first red flag. If someone you just married woke up and didn't recognize you, you'd be shocked. Hurt. Concerned. Something. But his expression remained perfectly pleasant, that smile never faltering for even a millisecond. He just smiled wider. Hannah, it's me. Your husband. James, he laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. Too much champagne last night? You were quite the party animal at our reception. My husband? No. 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 A cold sweat broke out across my skin. I pushed back the blankets and nearly screamed. I was wearing a silk nightgown I'd never seen before. My legs were sore, like I'd run a marathon. There were finger-shaped bruises circling my wrist. 5 perfect ovals of purple and blue, like someone had held me down. Hard. My stomach heaved. I barely made it to the bathroom before emptying its contents into the toilet. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a prank. This was something much worse. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to think. Trying to remember. Anything. A fragment. A flash. But there was nothing. When I came out of the bathroom, he, James, was standing there with a glass of water and 2 pills in his palm. For the hangover, he said with that same perfect smile. I stared at those pills like they were live grenades. No thanks. Something flickered across his face. Annoyance. Anger? It was gone so quickly I couldn't be sure. Suit yourself. He slipped the pills into his pocket. Breakfast is ready. You should eat something. I knew I needed to play along. To buy time. To figure out what the hell was happening. So I nodded, following him to the kitchen table where 2 plates of perfectly arranged breakfast waited. I sat down, my legs threatening to give out beneath me. My apartment looked different. There were things here that weren't mine. A leather briefcase by the door. Men's shoes lined up neatly. A second toothbrush in the bathroom. It looked like someone lived here. With me. I want to see the wedding video, I blurted out, interrupting him mid-sentence about some honeymoon plans I wasn't listening to. If we got married, show me proof. His smile faltered, just for a split second. A crack in the perfect mask. Then, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and turned the screen toward me. A video was playing. I was in a white dress. Simple, elegant. Not too flashy. I was laughing, twirling. And standing beside me, was James. In a charcoal gray suit. A minister was speaking. I was smiling. I was signing the certificate. It looked real. Except, I didn't remember any of it. And the woman in the video? She moved like me, smiled like me, but her eyes were vacant. Glassy. Where was this? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The Botanica Gardens. Downtown. He took the phone back. You chose it, remember? You said you always wanted an outdoor wedding. I had said that. Once. On a first date 3 years ago with someone else. How did he know that? He put the phone away. See, sweetheart? You were so happy last night. I could barely breathe. I wasn't happy. I was terrified. Then I saw it, a flicker in his eyes as he watched me. He wasn't trying to convince me. He was gauging me. Monitoring my reaction. Testing to see if I would believe him. And that's when I knew. This man was dangerous. I forced a smile. Made it reach my eyes. Made it believable. Yeah. Wow. Crazy night, huh? Sorry, it's all just a bit fuzzy. He grinned. That's my girl. I needed to get out. I needed help. But my phone was dead, the battery drained mysteriously overnight. And I noticed the landline was missing from its usual spot. So what's the plan for today? I asked, forcing myself to take a bite of pancake. It tasted like sawdust in my mouth. For our first day as a married couple? James leaned back, sipping his coffee. I thought we'd go to the bank first. Set up your access to our joint accounts. Then maybe pick out some furniture for the new house. New house? Then we need to swing by the insurance office. Just some paperwork to update with your new status. He smiled. Boring stuff, but necessary. My stomach tightened. Insurance. Joint accounts. Moving my money. This wasn't just some twisted game. This was calculated. Planned. Sounds good, I lied. Can I take a shower first? I feel gross. He nodded, and I escaped to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. I turned the shower on full blast, then sat on the toilet lid, head in my hands. Think, Hannah. Think. I could run. But to where? I had no phone. No money. And I had no idea what this man was capable of. I needed to play along. Just long enough to find help. The next hour, I played the part. I showered. I put on clothes he'd apparently bought for me, all in my size, all in styles I'd typically wear. I ate the pancakes. I laughed at his jokes. I let him kiss my forehead without flinching. And the whole time, I was looking for an escape. I saw a duffel bag by the door. His keys sticking out of the side pocket. He stepped away to grab his phone from the charger. Just going to make a quick call to the bank, let them know we're coming. That's when I noticed it. The bottom drawer of my desk was slightly ajar. My desk. My drawer. The one that had always been empty. I glanced at James, still occupied with his phone call in the kitchen, his back to me. I crept toward the drawer, pulled it open silently. My blood turned to ice. Inside was a sleek metal box. Unlocked. Containing a burner phone, 3 sets of fake IDs, all with his photo but different names. Women's jewelry, an engagement ring, a wedding band different from the one on my finger. A small notebook with dates, locations, names. My name was there. But it was crossed out. Another name was written next to it, Kayla Reynolds. With a question mark. I wasn't even his original target. I was a replacement. Under everything was a bank statement. My bank statement. From yesterday. A withdrawal of $45,000, nearly my entire savings. A withdrawal I never made. But what made my heart nearly stop was a small, handwritten note paper clipped to the bank statement. Target secured. Thanks for the tip. Payment sent. J. Below that was a phone number I recognized instantly. Alyssa's. My best friend. The person who'd insisted I go out that night. Who kept pushing drinks on me. Who was supposed to be watching my drink. It was already happening. I wasn't just going to be his victim. I already was. I quietly slid the drawer shut. This was my moment. I ran. Grabbed the keys, the bag, and sprinted. Down the hall. Stabbing the elevator button repeatedly, frantically, before giving up and taking the stairs. 14 flights down, legs burning, lungs screaming. Out the front door of the building. His car was easy to spot, a black BMW, sleek and expensive. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely press the unlock button. But just as the doors unlocked. Bang! 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 The sound of fists pounding glass made me jump and shriek. He was pounding on the driver's side window, face contorted in rage. Gone was the perfect smile, the charming demeanor. His eyes were black with fury. Hannah! Open the door. Now! I fumbled with the keys, jabbing one into the ignition. The engine roared to life. You stupid bitch! He screamed, his fist denting the hood as I threw the car into reverse. Tires screeched as I tore out of the parking space, narrowly missing him as he lunged for the door handle. I shifted to drive and floored it, the BMW lurching forward like a startled animal. I didn't look back. Not once. Not even when I heard the distant sound of someone screaming my name. I drove for 20 minutes, constantly checking the rearview mirror, making random turns, paranoid he might be following. When I finally felt safe enough to pull over, I checked the duffel bag. Inside was a laptop. Cash, a lot of it. And a folder. With trembling fingers, I opened it. My breath caught in my throat. There were photos of me. Dozens of them. At work. At the grocery store. Sitting in my favorite coffee shop. Walking Milo in the park. Some dated from months ago. This wasn't random. This wasn't a night gone wrong. This was premeditated. I went straight to the police station, the folder clutched against my chest like a shield. I showed them everything. The bruises circling my wrists. The needle mark on my arm. The fake marriage certificate. The surveillance photos. Told them everything I could remember, which wasn't much after 10:23 p.m. The detective, a woman named Rodriguez with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude, listened very carefully. She took photos of my bruises, bagged the folder as evidence, and asked me questions I couldn't answer. Did he tell you his last name? Reynolds. James Reynolds. Did he say how you met? At a coffee shop, supposedly. 3 months ago. And you have no memory of ever meeting this man before today? None. I could see the doubt in her eyes. It sounded crazy. Even to me. Then she pulled out her laptop, typed something, and turned the screen toward me. A news article from 6 months ago. Woman escapes forced marriage scam, other victims still missing. My blood ran cold. The room tilted sideways. Does this man look familiar to you? She pointed to a grainy security camera image in the article. My stomach dropped. Even in the poor quality photo, I recognized him. James. They showed me another photo. A driver's license belonging to a woman named Melissa Chen. She had my hair color. My height. My build. She had disappeared 3 months ago after a quick wedding in Las Vegas. And the man she married? It was him. Different name, Michael Donovan. Different identity. But the same face. We've been tracking this guy for almost a year, Detective Rodriguez said, her voice grim. He finds women who live alone, who fit a certain profile. Stalks them for months, learning everything about them. Then he makes his move. What does he want? My voice didn't sound like my own. Their money. Their life insurance. Sometimes both. She closed the laptop. He's smart. By the time we identify his victims, he's already moved on. I couldn't stop shaking. What happens to them? The women? The detective's silence was answer enough. There's something else you should know, Detective Rodriguez said, her voice dropping lower. We think he's not working alone. I felt my chest tighten. What? We've been tracking similar cases across 3 states. The Mo is too consistent, too perfect. The way he gets the drugs, the way he processes the paperwork, the way the victim's assets disappear. She tapped her fingers on the table. We found communications on a previous burner phone. Text messages to someone he referred to only as the broker. Someone higher up. My mouth went dry. You're saying he's part of some kind of organization? A ring? We don't know yet. But James, or Eric, or whatever his real name is, he's not the mastermind. He's a cog in a bigger machine. Her eyes met mine. Which means even when we catch him, this isn't over. I hesitated. My throat tight. Detective. I found something in my apartment. A note. With my friend Alyssa's number on it. Her expression changed. Alyssa? The friend you went drinking with? I nodded, the betrayal still fresh, still bleeding. The note implied. She helped him target me. Detective Rodriguez leaned forward. Ms. Morrison, we're going to need to talk to your friend. But when they went to find Alyssa, she was gone. Her apartment cleaned out. Her social media deleted. She had disappeared without a trace. Just like I was supposed to. They took me to a hospital, where a doctor confirmed what I already suspected. I'd been drugged. A powerful sedative, still lingering in my system. They found evidence of other drugs too. Something that would have made me compliant. Suggestible. Like a puppet. His puppet. The cops acted fast. They set a trap. Used me as bait, with my permission, with 6 officers in tactical gear hidden throughout my apartment. I called the number we found in his phone contacts. Told him I was sorry. That I panicked. That I wanted to talk. He agreed to meet. Of course he did. He thought I was still his puppet. When he showed up at my apartment that night, I was sitting on the couch, eyes downcast, playing the role of a repentant wife. I'm sorry, I whispered. I got scared. He smiled that perfect smile. It's okay, sweetheart. First day jitters. It happens to the best of us. He sat beside me, taking my hand in his. I fought the urge to recoil. But we do need to talk about consequences, he said, his voice dropping to a register that sent ice through my veins. Actions have consequences, Hannah. His grip on my hand tightened, painfully. You embarrassed me today. Made me look like a fool. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't good enough. His other hand moved to my throat, fingers pressing lightly against my windpipe. A warning. I had such plans for us, Hannah. But now I'm not sure you deserve them. That's when Detective Rodriguez stepped out from my bedroom, gun drawn. Police. Hands where I can see them. 5 other officers emerged from hiding places throughout my small apartment, weapons trained on him. The look on his face, that moment when his perfect mask shattered completely, I'll never forget it. Pure, animal rage. He lunged at me, fingers closing around my throat, but they were faster. 2 officers tackled him to the ground, the coffee table splintering beneath their combined weight. As they dragged him away in handcuffs, he locked eyes with me one last time. This isn't over, he mouthed silently. But he was wrong. It was over. They arrested him that same night. And guess what? He had done this before. 4 times. 4 women who weren't as lucky as me. His real name was Eric Blackwood. A former insurance agent who'd been fired for fraud 5 years ago. Since then, he'd been running his scheme across 3 states. Some of his victims were too scared to come forward. Others were never seen again. In his car, they found a burner phone with information about the other women. In a storage unit rented under a false name, they found wedding dresses in various sizes, marriage certificates with different names, multiple fake IDs. And his plan for me? A fake life insurance policy, worth $500,000. But that wasn't all. They found evidence he'd already withdrawn $45,000 from my savings account, filed for 3 new credit cards in my name, all maxed out at their $10,000 limits. A deed transfer form for my apartment, ready for my signature. Loan applications with my information for another $100,000. He'd been systematically draining me dry before I even woke up that morning. My credit score had plummeted 200 points overnight. My bank accounts were emptied. My identity was already being hollowed out, preparing for my eventual disappearance. I wasn't his wife. I was going to be his next victim. The trial took 8 months. I testified, along with 2 other survivors. We looked him in the eye and told the world what he did to us. He maintained his innocence the entire time. Claimed we were all lying. That we were scorned lovers trying to frame him. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury took less than 4 hours to reach a verdict. Guilty on all counts. I was there for the sentencing. Watched as the judge handed down his punishment. 20 years. No possibility of parole for at least 15. I thought I would feel relief. Closure. But as I watched them lead him away in handcuffs, all I felt was hollow. Because the nightmare didn't end when they locked him up. I still wake up sometimes, heart racing, convinced there's someone in my kitchen. I check the locks 3 times before bed. I never accept drinks from strangers. I moved to a building with security cameras and a doorman. He's in prison now. I know that. I'm safe. But sometimes, I still wonder. What if I hadn't woken up when I did? What if I had believed him? Taken those pills he offered me? What if I hadn't seen the needle mark, the bruises? And worst of all, what happened to the women who didn't get away? The ones whose names we don't know. Whose faces we've never seen. The ones who never got to tell their stories. 3 months after the sentencing, I received a letter. No return address. Inside was a simple white card with 7 words written in a handwriting I recognized immediately. See you in 15 years, sweetheart. I promise. I burned it. And then I bought a gun. 6 months later, I was sitting in a coffee shop downtown, working on my laptop. Just trying to rebuild my life, piece by piece. I finally started feeling safe again. Until I felt it, that prickling sensation on the back of my neck. The feeling of being watched. I glanced up. Across the cafe, a man was staring directly at me. Dark suit. Clean cut. When our eyes met, he didn't look away. Instead, he smiled. And then he deliberately lifted his wrist to check the time. On his wrist was a watch. The exact same designer watch James had worn. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You got the wrong guy. By the time I looked up again, the man was gone. I filed a police report. They checked the security cameras. Found nothing. Detective Rodriguez called me the next day. Eric Blackwood was still in prison. We confirmed it. Then who was watching me? I asked, my voice shaking. We don't know. But we found something else. She paused. A new burner phone, registered under the name Alyssa Winters. My former best friend. The woman who'd betrayed me. Who disappeared without a trace. Is she working with them? I whispered. Or she's another victim, Detective Rodriguez said grimly. Either way, this isn't over. Her silence said everything. This wasn't over. Maybe it never would be. Because some monsters don't stay locked up forever. And some monsters have friends on the outside. But when they come for me, any of them, I'll be ready. Thanks for listening. These stories take hours to make. Please like, comment, and subscribe.